Hi, angels, and welcome. I'm your host, Lisa Everting, founder of Earthy Angels, and I'm on a mission to empower women to live authentically and to take exquisite care of themselves. You can find us on earthyangels.com or head over to our show notes to follow us on socials. Good afternoon, my beautiful friends. Do you know what? I decided to record this episode because I had the realization that so many of my shifts, so many transformations that I've had in my life have just come from the seemingly insignificant day-to-day things that I have chosen to turn into sacred moments. I have chosen to look at life a little bit differently, and I wanted to share some of this with you today so you grab an understanding that you don't have to wait for these miraculous big moments for your life to turn around, that you can turn your life around and you can change, you can grow, you can evolve, you can transform, you can be happier in the day-to-day things that you find yourself doing. It's just a shift in your perspective and a shift in your outlook. So let me share with you. Hi angels, I have been feeling in such a great mood this morning, and I actually often feel like I'm in a really great mood. It is a decision that I made a long time ago to decide to choose happiness, to decide to choose a positive mindset, to decide to wake up every morning and go, I'm going to put my best self forward today, and just really have that energy of abundance, that energy of expectancy, that energy of gratitude, the energy of just embodying my best, happiest self. Am I like that all the time? Absolutely not. But most of the time I am. And I know it comes down to a decision as to how I want my life to unfold and how I want to show up daily. And anyway, I was having this amazing morning and I went to my Pilates private with one of my teachers, Pania. She's amazing. She lives around the corner from me, and every week I go and do a private Pilates session with her because I believe it makes you a good teacher when you have coaching, or when you go to other teachers, or just putting yourself back in that student mindset, the learner mindset, and always being a forever student, because other people have so much to teach us. But the other reason is I can go to her and switch off, right? I don't have to plan my workout. I can just go to her and go, tell me what to do. So I absolutely love that. So I had my morning Pilates with Pania, and I had a beautiful green smoothie that I made up, and I've just had the most amazing energy. And this morning when I woke up really, really early, I had quite a few things come to me that I want to share one thing with you this morning about how we possess this power to transform a mundane experience into a higher spiritual experience or a higher spiritual path. And I've been feeling lately like I could just share so much with you guys. I feel like I could record 20 episodes over the last couple of days. I've had so much insight come to me. I've had so much creativity, and we are coming out of a new moon cycle as well. And I've just been feeling this real buzzing energy. And this morning, I was about to go out for my walk. It was super, super early, and my son Brocky was up. He was getting ready to go to work. He's at school, and he's doing a school-based apprenticeship with my husband's business. He does cryotherapy and commercial aircon. He does all the cool stuff with nitrogen and cryo. And Brock had a job to go with Tom's business partner to a freeze. And I was chatting with him. He was waiting to be picked up. And I said, come out and have a look at the morning sky, Brock. And being the typical teenager, he kind of rolled his eyes a bit. But he's like, all right, Mum. And he comes out and has a look. And I'm like, have a look how amazing this is. It was just those beautiful pink and orange colors across the sky. And just when the morning's about to come to life and the sun's about to rise. And I'm like, mate, just stop for a moment and get off your phone and just stop and just take it all in, because there is so much beauty around us in the simple, mundane, day-to-day world that we forget about, or we get so caught up in what we're doing with our technology, with our work, with rushing around. I just like to try and remind the kids every now and then, take in a sunrise, take in a laugh, take a moment, even though they roll their eyes at me sometimes, or they're like, oh my God, mum, I still like to remind them. And he come out and had a little look, and he was asking me about, when are you teaching this week? And I'm like, oh mate, I'm on every day, all different times. And he said, I want to come and do some yoga with you to help me with my Muay Thai, with the flexibility, and so I can kick better. And I'm like, oh, that's just music to my ears. Been waiting for him to say that. So we had this nice little moment this morning when the sun was about to come up, and then he had to get picked up, and I went out on my walk, and I've been feeling a bit of a shift taking place, another shift. So we go through shifts all the time. Sometimes we feel like we have these shifts where we maybe level up, we maybe elevate, we may come out of a change of a relationship, a change of a mindset, a change of a belief, something might happen to us where we feel like we're having this little bit of a shift in our energy. We can just notice a change. Sometimes we might go backwards. We can sometimes feel a shift taking place, and then other times you feel like you go backwards, and that is normal. This is what happens. This is the cycle of life. And every time I feel a shift has been taking place, I notice that my energy gets heightened. I notice my senses get heightened. I'll notice smells that I maybe didn't notice before. I just notice, it's like I become activated, I guess you would say, or I feel I'm more present. I feel I'm more mindful. I'm more aware of what's going on in myself and around me. My intuition gets more powerful. My confidence starts to elevate. I feel a little bit more acceptance in myself, and my awareness expands. So they're kind of a few subtle, they're actually big things, but subtle things that I notice when I'm feeling a little bit of a shift taking place. And I noticed yesterday, actually, when I was out walking, I've just been feeling really beautiful in my body. I've been loving on my body a lot more. I will catch myself having thoughts of, like I'm just feeling really amazing. I'm feeling nice and strong, or I'm feeling fit, or I'm just feeling really like I'm accepting my body more and more. And my body has changed a lot over the years, as has yours. And I was actually having this conversation with a member the other day. I said to her, I feel more beautiful in my body now than what I did maybe 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I was leaner. I was I had a lower body fat percentage. I was probably more muscularly defined. But I actually feel more beautiful and confident and radiant in myself now than what I did a couple of years ago. I don't feel I'm the same person that I was even since last year, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago. And I know that it has come down to my beliefs, because I'm the same person. My body shape has changed, but I'm more accepting of myself because my beliefs have shifted. So every shift that I've had, my beliefs have elevated more in alignment with my spirit, because our mental chatter can take over. Our mental chatter often takes over and tells us all of these negative things, all of these negative beliefs, these negative thoughts, and it just takes over our mind. And what I started to understand was, I am not my thoughts. You are not your thoughts. I am the observer, like the witness or the observer of my thoughts. Because you know how you just hear your thoughts going all day, every day. You can be in class and you'll be thinking, what am I going to do for dinner when I get home? Oh my goodness, look at her. She's got so much flexibility in her legs. I wish my legs were that flexible. Oh, I wonder what my husband's doing. Oh, I forgot to tell the kids this. So you notice how your mind chats all the time. We have this constant chatter. The you that notices the chatter, that's the part I'm talking about. The observer, the witness who notices the chatter that goes on in the mind. I've started to have a more of an understanding over the years that you're not your thoughts. While your thoughts are powerful and your thoughts, what you think you become, you are not actually your thoughts. And what I started to do was I thought to myself, if I actually put my thoughts into a physical body. So if I imagine there was another version of me and she might look like me, but maybe a little bit meaner or a little bit more annoying, or however you would picture yourself, I would picture this other version of me who was the person sitting on the mat with me with that constant chatter, who was the person beside me in the car with that constant chatter. So I've started to visualize like a physical body who was like that constant chatter in my head. I imagine that chatter was coming from a person. So I kind of associated this physical body like a friend of mine embodying the chatter, if that makes sense. And I started to think, okay, this person, imagine like you're getting up of a morning and you're getting ready and your thoughts are, oh, I look so unattractive today. I look fat in this outfit. And you just judge yourself, right? You have all these thoughts that you start to criticize yourself. I imagine that that was a person standing beside me, looking in the mirror, dictating these things to me, going, you look so ugly today. You look so unattractive. All the things that you say to yourself. And when you visualize a person saying it, you're like, that's just mean. That doesn't feel really nice. And that would be horrible, having a person beside you all day telling you those things. So that got me thinking that I don't want that person beside me all day telling me those things, but your thoughts are on repeat all the time. And so what I've started to do over the years is to recognize that I'm the observer of my thoughts. What are my thoughts starting to say? And then I would catch myself in moments of where they were mean or where they were not really serving me. And I would try and pivot those thoughts, and I would try and change those thoughts. I would try and look at myself through the eyes of love, because the observer, the soul part of you, that wisdom part of you, does not actually speak to you that way. And that soul part of you only knows love, only knows acceptance, only speaks to you as if you were speaking to a child, as if you were looking to yourself through the eyes of love, through the eyes of God, the eyes of source, is what I remember Abraham Hicks saying many, many years ago. And that kind of stuck with me. And I thought that soul part of me, she would not speak to me like that. So I started to get a little bit more of an upper hand, I guess, as to you can't control what you think. They're going to come up anyway, but pivoting what I think. And then I started working a little bit harder at putting some of the nicer thoughts into my mind, some more thoughts of accepting my body, of starting to love on myself a little bit more. And I caught myself yesterday. So these are things that I've been doing over the years. And I caught myself yesterday. I'm walking along and I'm going, wow, I feel so great. I have so much energy. I really feel nice in my body. I'm excited about some new outfits that I've just bought to go to Bali on retreat. I'm going to look so beautiful in them. And I started to catch myself going, hey, like these thoughts are starting to come through more naturally, in that more of a beautiful, loving, understanding, accepting way. So it got me thinking that I've had this shift. This shift has been happening over, oh gosh, we have many shifts. But over the last few years, I've been constantly leveling up and constantly shifting, as many of you are as well. But I started to think about this morning how sometimes our shifts are not like this great big light bulb moment. They're not this great big thing that happens, a catalyst for a shift. And yes, that can happen in a shift, but you can also have shifts by the subtle little mundane things that you do every day. Sometimes they might compound, or sometimes it might just be one thing that happens to you that you might notice in a class, or you might notice a different feeling in your body, a different feeling in your energy. that shifts can happen in the mundane. And when I got home yesterday, I pulled this oracle card, freedom. And it said that you're now stepping out of a cage and reclaiming your birthright to be free. And it also said, whenever you feel burdened or trapped, remember that you have the power to free yourself. In truth, you are powerful, you are radiant, and you are autonomous. What's more is you have the authority to create positive change according to your will, and divine presence is here to help. And I started to feel, oh my goodness, I have this new freedom in my thoughts, this new freedom in my mindset. I'm not feeling so trapped and caged and brought down by my thoughts as much as I used to many, many years ago. And then when I was out walking this morning, so I had this beautiful morning this morning, I'm out and I paused to watch the sunrise. And I actually felt the sunrise. So I want to ask you this question. When you go and watch a sunrise, are you watching it going, that's really cool, I'll grab a selfie, this would be great on my Instagram. I might just stop, pause for a moment, watch it for 30 seconds, and then keep walking, which are still all great things to do, okay? But are you actually really pausing to take in these moments without a lens? Are you actually feeling these moments in your body, in your senses, in your heart and soul, and not just stopping for 5 or 10 or 30 seconds? Are you actually feeling them and not just watching them? Because what happened for me this morning, I paused to watch the sunrise, and it was just a seemingly insignificant, mundane day. And I transmuted, shift this experience into a really beautiful experience. I could feel the rays of the sun as it was coming up. I could feel the rays of the sun all down my skin. I could feel almost like the sun was just pouring into my third eye, like this into my forehead. This light was just pouring into my forehead, and I could feel my energy shifting. I could feel my, almost like my body starting to come to life, like I had plugged myself into a charger, is the probably most relatable way to say it. And I could just feel the morning coming to life. I could sense the birds, I could listen to the sounds, and I just felt this real connection to this light. And I felt this real connection that I've been awakening on another level. And it dawned on me that this just doesn't happen once. These little moments can happen over and over and over again. And the more you take these little moments and compound them, and what I mean by that is, rather than just watching this magnificent sunrise like this once, maybe do it a couple of times, whether it's a couple of times a week or that you get out to watch it. I'm just using a sunrise as an example, okay? It can be any moment that you really feel. The point is really feeling and taking in this moment and taking in the energy that it's actually giving you, feeling that you're opening yourself up to receive this energy. And I probably stood there for maybe, I don't know, felt like about 10 minutes just watching it, and I felt like I didn't have anywhere else to be. I'm just going to take it all in. And it was magnificent. Simple, mundane, boring morning. It felt honestly really magnificent, and it just set me up my day. I had a new spring in my step. I was pumped to go to Pilates with Panya. I just felt more alive. I felt more awakened. I felt more connected to myself. And when I was watching, after I was watching the sunrise, actually, no, it was kind of happening a little bit as the sunrise was unfolding. I pulled out my phone and I just started writing. And this happens to me sometimes. It's like I will get, some people call it a download, or it could be like a creative thought. It could be inspiration. It could be source talking to you. And it feels like you're talking to yourself, but it's like when I'm typing these notes in my phone, it's happening so fast that I'm not even stopping to pause and to recognize what's being said. I'm just pouring these notes into my phone as they come through. So I read out to you what I wrote. I wrote down, this is happening right as I am watching the sunrise. I wrote down, as she, hang on, wrong line. Here it is. As she rises from behind the clouds, She awakens dormant parts of herself that she's kept hidden. Her light starts to emerge with radiating golden rays of life. A life force spark of energy comes out from beneath the surface. As she raises her awareness higher, her light becomes stronger and more powerful, piercing warm rays of golden light, so blinding but so beautiful. Powerful and strong, yet graceful and delicate. She gently retreats behind another cloud, because that's what the sun did. It slowly went behind another cloud. She gently retreats behind another cloud and her light dims as she retracts. She then emerges again more radiant and more beautiful than ever before, filling the sky with her golden light, empowering everything around her, bringing life force energy to her day. So this just spilled out of me, right? I'm writing it down in my phone, and that was what was coming through as I was watching the sunrise. And then I started to think, like, this is how I'm feeling in myself. I'm feeling as the sun's rising up, I'm feeling that I've been awakening dormant parts of myself that have been hidden behind the clouds. Another line that I said in there, she gently retreats behind another cloud and her light dims as she retracts. I took that metaphor as being, sometimes you need to retreat behind the clouds. Sometimes you need to take a step back into seclusion. And then when you emerge, your light, it dims for a period, but then you emerge again even more radiant and more beautiful than ever before. So taking that little step back sometimes and retreating, it can be what your soul needs, so that you take that little bit of time to work on yourself, that you then emerge stronger and more beautiful and more powerful than you did before. I also looked at what I was writing afterwards when I was reflecting on it, how there have been so many parts of myself that I have kept hidden for such a long time, for having this fear of putting myself, my real, true, authentic self out there, that when I shifted and I allowed my real, authentic self to shine, it's like this beautiful, more radiant and beautiful person with the most expansive golden light emerged. I guess it's just that metaphor for when you're really true to yourself, that you really rise up and you really become this ray of light out into the world, to let your heart and soul shine bright into the world. So what got me thinking, and the point of this episode, was when I was walking back home, I was thinking how it's just such a simple experience getting up and going for a walk. But how often we do it with AirPods in, or we just are oblivious, we're just on our phones, and we're actually walking maybe for the sake of getting exercise, which is great too, but we're not taking in anything around us. And how just a simple moment of our day can become a really beautiful experience when you open yourself up to receiving that beautiful experience, when you open yourself up to looking at what's going on around you, when you become more in tune, when you become more mindful and you start to become more aware of what's going on around you. And it got me thinking how sometimes we feel like for us to shift or to level up or to awaken or to evolve or to grow, that we have to have these like earth-shattering, massive, mind-blowing events to have an awakening, where it can sometimes just lie in the little mundane things that we do on a day-to-day basis. It not necessarily this huge symbolic event, and it might not be going on a retreat, it might not be going into some kind of ceremony or doing anything like that. You might have shifts and awakenings just with the everyday things that you do in your day-to-day life. It can, something might come to you in a class. You might get a thought in a class because you've connected with yourself, that you're like, I'm done with that. I'm done with that part of my life. And it starts to awaken a shift in you. It might be a book that you read, a podcast that you listen to, a teacher that you just hear some wisdom being shared through a book or through a podcast that makes you have a shift and a change in your perspective. And it can be in your mundane daily rituals, your daily experiences, maybe something that somebody said to you in passing, an interaction that you've had with somebody, or just a little moment that you find that it unfolds for you, and just having that little shift in your perspective can just be such a powerful awakening. And it may not be this mind-blowing event like last year. I definitely had an awakening last year, as you would hear in my past episodes, about how I had my breast implants removed and how that led a big spiritual change evolved from what I went through last year. So that was something that kind of happened to me physically that did evolve into a shift or a spiritual awakening. But then as I look back of what's happened in the last 12 months, there's been lots of little day-to-day things that have, in the mundane, that have had a really profound effect on me. So I got home this morning, and then I pulled this other card. I've got this beautiful deck, the Divine Feminine, and it's so amazing how these cards are just, I cannot explain it. They're just so relevant with what's happening or what I need to hear. And it might not be oracle cards. Some people like oracle cards or angel cards or tarot cards. They're all different. Some people might find it through the wisdom that they have in a book, or through the Bible, or through something that you are reading. So they're all messages. They just come across in different formats, in different forms. But I pulled this card this morning, and it's, I can't say it. Some of them are so hard to pronounce. Vajrayogini, the essence of all Buddhas. And she has on her card, I have the power to make each moment sacred. Everything is material for my liberation. I want to read this to you because I think it's really important. It says, when your soul selects her card, no matter what has happened recently or in the past, she reminds us that we possess the fierce wisdom that transmutes any pain or any suffering into deep lessons that free us and bring us more joy. She's the call to wake up if we've fallen into that old myth that something or someone outside of us is going to save us. She's here to make it loud and clear that what is within us will save us. We can take this moment right here, right now, and turn it into everything sacred. Her energy is sharp, intense, and uncompromising. She will not let you remain in an illusion or a disempowering story about who you really are. She wants you to sever all the ties to your ego's relationship to a person or to an event in your life and see it with the third eye, with the wisdom that can perceive the deeper spiritual path beneath the human drama. This red female Buddha is the power we all have in every moment to take a seemingly everyday event or an annoyance or an unfortunate occurrence and use it for our own enlightenment. She reminds us that everything is rich material for us to use to elevate our reality as an embodied soul. Can I see the lesson in the chaos is the little message down the bottom of what I have just read out. I have the power to make each moment sacred. And I read that and I was like, oh my goodness, that's such a reminder for what I was thinking about today. But she just puts it in the most, this oracle deck just puts it in the most amazing, beautiful way, that we have the power to shift our perspective, that we can make a choice to be more mindful. We can start to be more aware and to release that ego attachment to who we are. And we have the power in this moment right here, right now, to turn it into something more sacred. It's all in the way that you look at it, and it's all in the giving yourself permission and giving yourself space to look at the world with a bigger perspective and to look at the world through the eyes of more beauty, more acceptance. Because when you start to look at the world that way, when you start to look at being more mindful, you start to look at yourself in a different way. You start to look at yourself through the eyes of more beauty. It's not just what you see in the mirror, it's what you see in everyday little experiences. It can just be like a really beautiful, tender hug from a loved one. I had a moment the other week where I took my little niece, it was raining, we had a break in the weather, and I took her for a walk in a stroller, and we went up to the park, and there was some frangipanis on the ground, and I picked one up and I gave it, her name's Lily, and I gave it to Lily, and she was just smelling the flower, and she'd give it to me to smell, and then she'd smell it, and she's just like, flower? And we just had the most beautiful little interaction with this little flower, and just watching her. She held that flower the whole time on the walk to the park. She held that flower on the swing. She held it going down the slide. And she was just so attached to this beautiful flower. And I thought it's something so simple. And children have a way of looking at the world with such awe, at the world through such curiosity, and they don't feel rushed. They just stop. And I get reminded of this sometimes on my walk with Kira. Some mornings I'll be out there and I feel like, actually not too often lately. In the past I did. I will have an occasional morning like this, but it doesn't happen too often. But the past me, I would feel like, okay, I've got to quickly get my walk in because I've got to get to work. I've got to be here. I've got to be there. I've got so much to do, that I started to shift my perspective a little bit when I was out with Kira. And I would give myself a little bit more time on my walk too. I would get up earlier or find time in my day when I had a little bit more time. And she just stops, and she just stops and sniffs everything, as dogs do. And every time she would stop, I would make a little choice. I'm just going to stop with her, and I'm just going to take in a big deep breath. Or I am going to just take in the sun rays coming through the trees, or I'm just going to watch that bird overhead. Just taking those little moments to just stop and pause and take in what's happening around me, just like she does. And dogs and kids, they have this way of reminding us to slow down, of reminding us to be present, and reminding us of these little sacred moments in the mundane things that we get annoyed with, that we want to rush through, that we have to move on to the next moment, or we've got somewhere else more important to be, or something more important to do, instead of just taking in that moment for what it can offer us. And that is where you start to feel shifts, my friends. It's not in these massive mind-blowing events. Can be, absolutely can be, but it's also in what you are being more awakened and aware of in your everyday life. And I had this moment this morning where I felt I was plugged in, I felt I was recharged, and I could feel this shift in my mood. I could feel this shift in my energy. I could feel my vibration had raised. I could feel that I was more peaceful, more calm, less reactive. And that is what these little mindful moments can do for you. They help you in everyday life. I had a client yesterday. She said to me after class, she had her first class on the weekend, and I said, how was your first class and how's your experience been? And she goes, I am so happy. I had a day on the weekend on Saturday. I come to my very first Pilates class. The ladies were just so nice. They made me feel really, really welcome. They were chatting with me outside before we went into class. And she goes, my husband said to me, you're so happy today. And she goes, I know, it was because of my Pilates. And I said to her, that is the power of what we do. That is the power in your daily rituals. And she said, my kids were happier. My whole household was just happier. And all I did was go to Pilates, and I just felt so good. And that is the power, my friends, in doing these little practices. Because in our classes, we are giving you moments where you can pause and you can just stop for a moment, especially at the end of class in Shavasana and relaxation. But we're teaching you how to be more embodied. And when you're doing these, moving your body, whether it's a walk, whether it's exercise, it has a way of recharging you and shifting your energy and giving you more life force, energy, and vitality. And you just feel good. And I've started to notice over the years this correlation between my movement, my yoga, how it makes me want to eat better, what I'm listening to, my podcasts, my books, my audios, what I'm doing, all in my little rituals, how they all compound to impact my thoughts and to impact my mindset, to impact the way that I see myself, come from this direct correlation of your rituals. And I have people say to me all the time, I can't be bothered. I lack motivation and I find it really hard. I've been watching you for ages, following along for ages, but I just like the motivation. And once you start doing one thing, the other things will follow. For some people, they may start, say, for instance, listening to my podcast or a podcast. Some people might start with a book. Some people might start by coming into a class. Then you find you pick up more and more habits that you start to shift, that you look back and you go, wow, I've evolved so much from the person that I was 6 months ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, because you've changed your habits. They work in unison. Your habits, your actions work in unison with your thoughts and your beliefs. And when you kind of tie them all together, that's when you start to notice some shifts, and you start to notice you are becoming more confident, you're becoming more powerful, you're becoming more connected to yourself, you're becoming more positive words are just starting to spill out of you. You're just feeling happier in yourself. And that is what I want for you, angels. That is what I want to see. I want to see you have these little shifts. I want to see you elevate, but I also want you to understand that it does not have to be this earth-shattering event. It's what you do in your day-to-day practices, in your day-to-day rituals that also elevate you and give you the power and give you the shift, that give you more awakening. It's what you do every single day that is going to help you, my friends. So I will leave that with you. Know that you too can shift, you too can change, you too can transform, you too can feel more confident in yourself, but you too also have to take some aligned actions and take the time to care for yourself. I will leave that with you, my friends. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will chat with you soon. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode and want more, feel free to follow or subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. You can also head over to earthyangels.com or join our private Facebook group, Earthy Angels Connect, for more community, blogs, updates, inspo, motivation, support, and to connect with a tribe of like-minded souls. And if you have a moment, we would be super grateful if you would love to leave a review. Sending you so much light and